It all began in April 1998. Epstein acquired this 7.2-acre island, not under his own name, but through a shell company, for $7.95 million. He made it his primary residence and, with a dark and twisted sense of irony, nicknamed it Little St. Jeff. But behind that tropical paradise facade, the island was being transformed into the nerve center of a human trafficking network. Epstein spared no expense in turning the island into an impenetrable fortress. He laid private underwater power and fiber optic cables to remain entirely independent of public infrastructure. Why? So no one could track what was happening there. The entire island was rigged with hidden surveillance cameras, and every staff member was forced to sign ironclad non-disclosure agreements, NDAs. Every detail was engineered for absolute control and secrecy. With the fortress secured, the next phase began. How did Epstein lure the world's most powerful people to such a remote, isolated location? His primary tool was his private Boeing 727. Locals, noticing the frequent transport of teenage girls to the island, gave it a notorious nickname: the Lolita Express. This plane wasn't just for moving victims. It was a hook, providing free, luxurious travel for high-profile guests like Prince Andrew and Bill Clinton. This brings us to a vital part of the operation: the deceptive public image. Epstein framed his island as an intellectual and scientific hub, a place for high-level think tanks and conferences. He invited the global elite and Nobel laureates, but behind closed doors, it was a different story. It's reported that every room was equipped with hidden recording devices. The goal? Collecting compromise, incriminating evidence for future blackmail. It was his ultimate insurance policy. This complex operation wasn't a solo act. It was a partnership. While Epstein was a master of networking with the American elite, Ghislaine Maxwell acted as the social architect. She opened doors to power circles in the UK and Europe. Together, they were a power couple, capable of infiltrating almost any institution. Perhaps the most cold-blooded part of the system was the systematic pyramid scheme used to recruit a constant stream of victims. Epstein would recruit one victim and then pay her to bring her friends into the network. This created a false sense of security for the newcomers, since they were being introduced by someone they trusted, and made it nearly impossible for the girls to escape the cycle. The $200 referral fee highlights the cold, calculated nature of the scheme. A young girl's life was reduced to a simple cash reward. Through this, the victims were unwittingly turned into parts of the recruitment machine. And this wasn't limited to the U.S. Victims were trafficked from France, Brazil, and Eastern Europe. Reports even suggest that the MC2 modeling agency, owned by Jean-Luc Brunel, served as a primary source for recruitment. To understand how they stayed in power, we have to look at the psychological tactics used to trap these girls. This wasn't just physical captivity. It was a psychological prison. Maxwell played the role of the cool big sister, grooming the victims by normalizing Epstein's behavior and convincing them that this was just how adults acted. This manipulation slowly eroded their resistance. The victims were caught in a web of lies and threats. They were promised jobs, money, and education, but were simultaneously forced to lie about their ages. They were threatened with dire consequences if they spoke out. This combination of financial dependency and raw fear created a perfect trap. Eventually, the empire began to crumble. But how? The road to justice was incredibly long, from the first ignored reports in 1996 to a formal investigation in 2005, and then the infamous 2008 non-prosecution agreement that effectively buried the case for a decade. The turning point was the 2018 investigative report by the Miami Herald. This report ignited such massive public pressure that it finally led to Epstein's arrest in 2019. Why did it take so long? Why were early reports ignored? Prosecutor Marie Villafana points to deep-seated institutional biases. At the time, the justice system lacked a proper understanding of the psychology of abuse and often ended up blaming the victims themselves. For 10 years, it seemed the case was closed forever, until journalist Julie K. Brown broke the silence. Her series, Perversion of Justice, acted like a bombshell, exposing the secret deal and unearthing long-buried secrets. The impact was immediate. By July 2019, Labor Secretary Alexander Acosta was forced to resign, and Epstein was back behind bars. When the FBI finally raided his Manhattan mansion, what they found was chilling. It wasn't just a home. It was a meticulously designed crime scene. They found a safe full of cash, diamonds, a fake passport, a bizarre collection of prosthetic eyes, hand-labeled CDs of nude photos, and even a schoolgirl uniform that a victim had been forced to wear. In the wake of the scandal, Congress passed the Epstein Victim Preparation Act, forcing government agencies to declassify millions of documents. These files linked high-profile names to the case. From allegations of Epstein attempting to extort Bill Gates, to emails from Elon Musk inquiring about parties, and of course, the mounting evidence against Prince Andrew, the fallout went global. It triggered a domino effect of resignations. From a national security advisor in Slovakia to a senior politician in the UK and even a UN official. Finally, we come to his death, which remained shrouded in suspicion due to a series of security lapses. First, his cellmate was transferred against protocol, leaving him alone. Second, the two guards on duty supposedly fell asleep, and most suspiciously, the two cameras covering his cell malfunctioned simultaneously. While the official autopsy ruled it a suicide by hanging, a private pathologist hired by the family doctor, Michael Botten, challenged this. He pointed to specific fractures in Epstein's neck bones that are more consistent with homicidal strangulation than suicide. This medical discrepancy fueled a fire of conspiracy theories that still burn today. This leaves us with one final question. With millions of pages released, how many secrets are still hidden? Do we know the whole story, or is the truth still lurking in the shadows? It suggests that even after all these years, complete justice might still be out of reach.